We need to turn that off. The music behind
What
me.
time does 7 o'clock meeting start? 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Welcome to Position of Neutrality. We got started precisely on time, but it so surprised us we didn't even have the TV and the music off behind me. So those of you joining us online, particularly you guys up in Canada, we're in step one, so we know we got a lot of new guys. Does that make sense? And some of those places. So we're in step one tonight. Before we begin, we always open with a prayer. My normal prayer is not here. Do I have a volunteer to come and give an opening prayer? How about you? Carrie? Yeah, can you come up and say a prayer? Don't let Carrie fool you. She knows how to say a prayer.
In my mind. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for your presence here tonight. And we ask that you open our spirit so that we hear the good news of what you want to teach us. And that, they're all open-minded and open-hearted and hear the message.
Thank you. She was completely surprised and shocked by that and did a great job. So those of you that have not been here before, what we do here at Position of Neutrality is we take a look at the suggested instruction for the steps in this book, and we use this book in 12-Step Recovery. Why?
Because it works.
Yeah, the process described by the authors of this book has been proven to work for addicts of the hopeless variety, addicts to alcohol and other substances. And in fact, we've discovered over time that this same manner of living causes us to grow in consciousness of a solution to all kinds of other behavioral disorders. So we have seen recoveries from behavioral disorders, complex anxiety disorders, depression, all kinds of self-destructive behaviors. Those of you who don't really understand, never had a drug problem, but you did have an adrenaline problem and it manifested as rage, we got good news for you. You don't have to go to prison anymore if you'll access this power. And we don't say that lightly. It's a fact. It's been proven over and over and over. So tonight, unfortunately, as eloquent as Carrie's prayer was, we're going to talk about step one. And so while she was talking about good news, we're going to have to go through some bad news to get to the good news, because that's the nature of step one. We're not going to share the experience of powerlessness and unmanageability without having some emotional upheaval within us. And if we do, then we've missed something, because they're experiences, they're not theories. Yes? Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in the very beginning of the book so you understand what we do and why we do what we do. I know I've told you what we do, but then you're still kind of going, I'm still not sure what this guy's getting ready to do. So what I'm getting ready to do is show you, most people in the fellowships, all the different fellowships, refer to this as the big book. But the name of the book really is Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. So we tell you that because of the idea is not to alter their testimony, but to honor their testimony and find our experience within it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then we go to the forward to the first edition, and they tell you who the we is. You know, the magical we that you see in every AA room or recovery room you go in, we admitted, right? And a lot of us, there's even fellowships that'll tell you we're the we. Yeah. And it's a partial truth. We may be the we, but we're not initially the we. Because the we they're talking about is the first 100, and they're going to tell us that. So it says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. They put precisely how we've recovered in italics. They never do that except when they really want you to dive in. What are the authors saying to me in that moment? What is the purpose of this book?
To tell me precisely how they recovered.
Yeah, and to show others, right? Because the word they used exactly is to show other alcoholics. So they put this book in our hands so that all this 90 years later, I can still sit down with you and show you precisely how I recovered in alignment with their strategies and actions, the same way as was done for them, the same way as was done for me. So that's why we're in the book. Does it make sense? And then it says, for them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many who do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we're sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. I went over some of the advantages for all kinds of people in this manner of living just before. I want to jump from there to the forward to the second edition on page XVII, give you one more reason why we started doing position of neutrality so many years ago, because of we saw the efficacy of the groups greatly declined in the modern era. From 1939 until 1955, which a period of time which included a world war, if you guys are students of history, they maintained somewhere in the neighborhood of a 65% efficacy of recovery, long-term recovery. In our modern era, we know it's less than 10 because of the anonymous nature of our fellowships. We don't really know, but most of us would hazard a guess somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 if people just come to fellowship and don't have access to this information. Does that make sense? So the reason we want to be in this book is we want to try and correct some of that, maybe reintroduce the power and the testimony so that more people get well and we avert some suffering for people. And so we've been doing this, I hate to use the word, but we've been doing this teaching religiously for lots and lots of years for that reason. So I'm done on XVII. It says it was now time the struggling groups thought to place their message and unique experience before the world. So whose message and unique experience? The first 100. And it said the determination bore fruit in the spring of 1939 by the publication of this volume, the volume you're all holding in your hands or you're listening to me read from. Yes? Yeah. And then it says the membership had then reached about 100 men and women, who we just introduced you to in the forward. Yes? But then it says the fledgling society, which had been nameless, now began to be called Alcoholics Anonymous from the title of its own book. So the reason we have you in the book is you could go to the meetings and you could think that there was a fellowship that formed and then they wrote a book about it. And that's not what happened. They wrote a book and then the fellowships formed. So the fellowships are named after the book. And that's why altering the testimony is not a good idea, because it leads to deception, and a little bit of deception gets you a long way off the path. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I'm going to jump to, I want to go to the doctor's opinion. The doctor is Dr. William Silkworth, and he was an interesting fellow at that time, treating veterans and a lot of people from World War I coming back. So there was a lot of addictive disorder, but no one knew it as addictive disorder. There was addictions to morphine, to cocaine, to alcohol, to all kinds of things. And they were just lost to society because they really didn't know what to do with them. And he began treating people, we'll let him tell the story, but he began treating people because he recognized there was something more going on there. So doctor's opinion, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. So it's just authentication, a medical professional saying, I've seen the plan of recovery, I've seen the people enacting the plan of recovery, and this is my opinion of it. Does it make sense?
Yep.
So convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with the sufferings of our members and have witnessed our return to health. So in modern parlance, it's just, scientifically proven. I don't know, I'm using the wrong words, sorry. Had a stroke a year ago and I don't always have the words, but the reality is we still use evidence-based approaches in modern therapy. Always we want evidence to support what we're giving ourselves to, yes?
Right.
So a well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. So now we're going to read from Silkworth's letter to the original founding members, yes?
Yep.
To whom it may concern, I've specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. Understand that at the time he wrote this letter, there was no diagnosis for alcoholism. So if you want to know a man's heart, look at a guy who believes so strongly that although all the professionals of his age were not in disagreement with him, he went out in a ministry, if you will, and endeavored to correct the problem for mankind. So in late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I had come to regard as hopeless. You know who he's talking about? He's talking about Bill Wilson, yes? So in the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. So two things. How many of you have struggled? Those of you online too. Have you ever struggled with your recovery? Bounced a little bit. The author of the predominant portion of this book struggled. So struggle isn't an indication that you lack willingness. Struggle is an indication you lack power. Make sense? So as part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conception to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. So that's what Bill started bringing back to the people within the treatment system that Silkworth had, was not only do you need to do these things I'm showing you how to do, but you need to show others how to do these things I'm showing you how to do in order to continue your own recovery. Does that make sense?
Right.
Now, how many of you have been in a psychiatric unit? Got a lot of hands. Okay. So, how many of you suggested to your counselor that you should work with their patients? I want to call your attention to the fact that they let him.
Right.
Something profound was at work, right? Some of you are feeling that. Who's feeling that?
Yeah.
That's the power we call God. Yeah, he made a way where there was no way. And I believe. Anyway, so listen, I've been in a lot of lockdown units. They did not want me talking to people. This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. What is the this they're talking about?
The program.
Yeah, the manner of living. Do these things and show others how to do these things. And keep it going. Okay, so this man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. So that's his observation. Yep. So I'm going to jump from there to the next page. Well, 2 pages over, XXVII, because I don't want to spend forever in the doctor's opinion, but I want to hit a couple more things and then look at some other things tonight. I'm at the bottom of XXVII, and we start with the author's, or the doctor's opinion, his expanded text. He says, of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor. And this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. So, yeah. Whether on the street or in a hospital or whatever, we've learned that it's difficult to reach the mind when we're suffering detox symptoms, and it's impossible to reach the mind when we're trying to fight that craving beyond mental control. So it says, we believe and so suggested a few years ago that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. I'm going to stop right there. Over the years, we've just not explained to people medical speak and how that happened. And so a lot of people miss the profundity of this teaching, this opinion. But how many of you have heard people laugh about the allergy? I drink and I break out in handcuffs. And you almost hate to hear that joke anymore, right? So, and the only reason I hate to hear it is because somebody who thought they were being clever carries on a deception. What the doctor is saying is there appears to be something I'm witnessing here, something in the nature of an abnormal reaction for this class of people. And he would call an abnormal reaction an allergy because that's how doctors talk. And so what he acknowledged or what he saw and not what you may have experienced, how many of you are drinkers? When you drank, did you find that alcohol energized you?
Yes.
Okay, alcohol is a sedative. So that would be an abnormal response to a sedative. Do I have any opiate addicts here? Powerful sedative. How many of you got really energized when you got hooked up again? Yeah, we're out mowing the lawn or the carpet or whoever, depending on, right? Yeah, everyone wonders how I keep my lawn so neat. It's not opiates, it's AstroTurf. No. Where's my methamphetamine addicts, cocaine addicts? Do you guys find that stuff calmed you down? Need I say more? Where's my behavioral addicts? Many of you, yeah, me too. Do you notice how you got philosophically comfort by maybe doing harm to yourself, inflicting pain on yourself, starving yourself, causing yourself to throw up after you ate? Yeah, anybody? A bunch of you felt that. That's the power we call God, by the way. When we share with you that experience, it's a shared experience. That's collective group consciousness. And consciousness of who? Power. Yeah. Okay. So the manifestation of analogy, the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. So how many in a never?
0.
So how many times have you done whatever your behavior is with the intention of just doing a little bit and found out you then lost control of it? Now, where are the people in the room that say, yeah, it happens sometimes, but it doesn't happen every time? Because they're in every room. Okay, so then I got one more question. If it doesn't happen every time, do you know which time? Well, then did you ever really have control? No, that was the deceiver trying to get me to lie to me, right? Okay, so these allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it. Has that happened for you? Once having lost their self-confidence. Some people have a hard time surrendering self-confidence, but eventually it'll get beat out of us. The guy that initially yanked me off the streets and through the steps said, Joe, we got to get you to God before you find a more creative way to get there. And it's really that dire. So their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. How many of you have had that?
Oh, yeah.
Astonishingly difficult pile of problems. Okay. So remember, we're talking about chronic alcoholics. And this is a medical opinion in which you've self-identified. This isn't me telling you nothing. This isn't him telling you nothing. But if this is who you are, there's your medical degree. How are we doing so far? Okay. So then it says, frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. So how many people begged you to stop? If you cared about your job, you'd stop. If you loved me, you'd stop. If you don't want to go to prison, you'll stop. How many of you wanted to do or didn't want to do any of those things and also didn't stop? So frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. All right, the message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. Now, they're not leaving us hanging. They're not asking me to tell horror stories for an hour and see if you can relate. They're going to tell me exactly what depth and weight is. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their life. Depth and weight means it's not me talking to you, it's this power within me talking to you. And he's not talking to you, he's talking to the one in you that wants to live. It's the only one he talks to. Does it make sense? And that's why no matter how many of you are listening to me tonight, you all hear a different thing. Because you hear what you need to hear in light of your experience. If you don't believe me, play the recording. You play it again in a week, you'll hear something different.
True.
So, okay, I'm going to jump from there to the bottom of the page. It says men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol.
Yes.
Sean really likes the effect. How many of the rest of you can relate? Are most of the rest of you sober? Yeah, everyone's sober? Reasonably so? Okay, good. That's always a good start. How many of you, like Sean, can bring to consciousness? I mean, really breathe in. What it feel like to give yourself, go get one, take one, whatever it is. Can you do that right now? Yeah, okay. So all these years, for many of you, later, you still get ease and comfort just from the memory of it. The cunning, baffling, powerful nature that grip, that spirit has on us. They call it spirits for a reason. Because they are the essence of what was. Yeah. All right, so the sensation is so elusive that while they admit it injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. So how many of you redefined your reality in terms of your reality?
Yes.
How many of you had a hard time seeing other people outside of you? The world gets really small then. Do you know what I'm saying to you? You guys get what I'm saying? It's like I know that I'm going through this awful human experience, but no one else, there's no one knows about this island I'm on. So to them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. I went through that so you'd see the hopeless feature of the malady. I'm always going to experience ease and comfort when I bring to recollection what it did for me. Later in this teaching tonight, we'll talk about how I will not be able to bring to consciousness with sufficient force the memory of suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago, and I'll be without defense against that first drink or drug or behavior, and I'll be on again. Right?
Yeah.
And remember, they separate the idea of consciousness from memory. Because a lot of counselors got that wrong years ago, probably 40 years ago. They told me, well, you just play the tapes, think it through. Well, that's memory. That's not consciousness. Consciousness is I'm sober many years and I can still feel the ease and comfort right now. And memory is that doesn't work out well for Joe.
Right.
And that memory that it doesn't work out well will be pushed aside if I'm not improving my consciousness. Does that make sense? That's why sitting in rooms won't help. That's why going to churches won't help. I got to be actively serving and witnessing. It's the only way it works. So then it says, what did I do? After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, with a firm resolution not to drink again. How many of you have done that? How many of you have done it more than once? What the authors say is this is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of his recovery. Now, they were pretty unequivocal. You know what? Those people cared more about us back then. Some people called it crude and rude, and you're not letting me have my path, and no, I'm not letting you die in front of me without being properly warned about your condition.
Yep.
Does that make sense? There's some gravity in that.
Yes.
On the other hand, and strange as this may seem, those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. These were the disciplines they were introduced to. At that time, there was 5 principles of the Oxford group. Bill later, expanded that when they got to the 12-step approach. But that's history you can go to Sean's meeting about. All I want you to understand is the manner of living was always indicated if you came in contact with any of us. And fellowship is fun and maybe fruitful, but it's not a solution. The solution to whatever you got going on is found in you, not in a room, not in me, not in a book. It's found in you. And our job is to awaken that in you. Does that make sense? So I want to go from there to, no, I'm going to get out of the doctor's opinion now. And the other thing I want to tell you about the doctor's opinion is it is his opinion. When he says that we as alcoholics or addicts are easily able to control our desire, that's his observation, because he doesn't know my desire's been removed. Right. I don't have desire. And it's different. And I'm not saying that happens to everyone right away. I'm telling you, if you avail yourself of this power, it goes away and you're not doing anything. You're just serving. Right? Okay, so I want to go to, I always threaten to do something different, but let's go to page 21, because I hadn't done that in a while. 20. How about 20? Okay, so I'm going to go to the bottom of 20, and let's do a little more self-diagnosis. Fair enough? So it's the bottom of page 20. It says, moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have good reason for it. So, have you discovered that you have more than a little difficulty giving up liquor, drugs, harmful behavior entirely? Stop and stay stopped. Have you had good reason to do so? Yes. Okay, so what we have determined at this point that you are not moderate. So we're going to have to read further. Does that make sense? Okay, then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention. So, have you had sufficiently strong reason? The warning of a doctor, the warning of a law officer, the warning of a loved one. Were you able to sufficiently change your trajectory? No. Have you met those people that could? It's interesting. I have. I've had them in my family. They drank like absolute disasters. And then one day they just stopped. And everyone would say, why can't you just be like old Uncle Billy? And I'm like, fuck old Uncle Billy. He's weak. He's a quitter. The problem is those certain types of hard drinkers, they find their way into our detoxes and into our fellowship rooms. And they're not our rooms, they're AA's rooms, and they're welcome there. So we're not here to condemn them, but I got to make sure I'm not listening to somebody who has a vastly different experience from me. Right? Yep. Because if you're hoping to arrest it before you go through what Bill went through or what I went through or some other people I see around the room, if you're trying to arrest it before you get to live what it's like to live under a bush, you better hear it from the real deal and not somebody who just doesn't pick up no matter what. Because, baby, I pick up no matter what. There ain't no threat going to stop me. It's almost a challenge for me. And it's a wrong word. It is a challenge. If you've ever smuggled booze into your hospital room so that you could drink while you had a stomach pump in, you might need to read this book. Anyway, so don't know about real alcoholics. It doesn't matter what I know. I know what I am. We're about to talk about what I am, perhaps what you are. What about the real alcoholic? Now look at the words they use. A lot of people in our rooms don't know what that means. And you'll always hear some old crusty guy that's been to 7,000 step studies, and he'll say, John, real alcoholic. And you'll go, what's he bragging? No, he's identified himself as this guy in this book, and he's trying to let people know if you're struggling, you better come talk to me. Because I have an anointing on me that allows me to lift you up on out of here. Does that make sense? So, what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. How many of you did that?
I did.
Had a few years of successful drinking all the way to junior high? Sean drank into his professional years. I survived college years, didn't get much further than that. College was a tough education. He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. How many of you were periodic?
I did.
Started realizing it was a bit problematic, so you chose the places you drank, but when you drank, you came off the rails. Or when you...
No, I just drank hard.
Well, they have continuous hard drinkers, right? Yeah. Okay. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. So it's always about loss of control, and it's always got manifestations outside of your addiction or your primary addiction, right? If you're trying to control too much, you're already in your disorder, even if you're abstinent.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Because they've already told us we're going to be restless, irritable, and discontent unless we can experience ease and comfort. So if I'm not experiencing ease and comfort, I'm seeking ease and comfort. It's the way I'm wired.
Right.
Okay, so here's the fellow who's been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. Now remember, they intended for this book to be read to you by one of us. And so the person who's been puzzling me is me. But because I see everything as an attack and I can't see outside of me, it's very important that I have that discovery on my own, not be told what it is, which is why we're taught how to take people through this process the way we are. Don't alter it. Don't shame them. Don't tell them to change the words. Don't personalize it. If it's supposed to be, you read this book, and as I read it to you, I'll show you what I discovered in it. Make sense?
Yeah.
So he does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking. Any of you?
Yeah.
And again, behavioral disorders, whatever the issue is that causes you to experience powerlessness and unmanageability, substitute it. Because drinking's a symptom. Cutting's a symptom. Eating's a symptom. Not eating's a symptom. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You guys know that story.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Jekyll gets a little bit diabolical. Yes? No, Mr. Hyde.
Mr. Hyde.
So he's seldom mildly intoxicated. He's always more or less insanely drunk. Some of you relate to that? Yeah? How many of you had to go to a detox facility a time or two? How many of you had a rather high tox screen? Anything above 2, you should probably be 0.33. It's not a record, but that's good. That's solid. That'll get into the intermediate round. So, and the other thing is, just because I am insanely drunk doesn't mean I act insanely drunk because I'm operating at that level. People that don't know what they're seeing don't even know I'm that insanely drunk. And you'll go to the detox and they'll say, dude, you're blowing a 3.3. You should be hospitalized. Hence my arrival. I'm having a little trouble parking the car, though. Can you? His disposition while drinking resembles his normal nature, but little. So this one gets a little more complex until you have a little more clean time, I suspect. How many of you know your normal nature? And how many of you are still trying to grow into it? Yeah, a lot of, we pass right over that, but normal human nature would be inquisitive, childlike. Alcoholic nature is more demanding and childish. We can go through major traumas without batting an eye and then just have a complete meltdown over the hamburger being wrong from Jack in the Box. The old timers, when I came around, says, Joe, you got to quit pole vaulting over mouse turds. They were trying to describe that to me. So he may be one of the finest fellows in the world, yet let him drink for a day and he frequently becomes disgustingly and even dangerously antisocial. How many of you have had those experiences? Maybe after some clean time. And then you go out again, and the dangerously antisocial is you get suicidal or homicidal. Yes? Both? Yeah? He is positive genius for getting tight at exactly the wrong moment, especially or particularly when some important decision must be made or engagement kept. Has that ever happened to you? Got a new opportunity and then twisted off? Started to get trust back from somebody and then started acting out? So he's often perfectly sensible and well-balanced concerning everything except liquor, or substitute your thing. But in that respect, he's incredibly dishonest and selfish. I will lie when it's obvious I'm lying. I'll lie to you and know you know I'm lying to you, and I'm still powerless to stop lying to you because I am going to defend the source of my ease and comfort. And we're going to ride the rails off it. If you relate to me, that's not good news, unless you intend to keep reading. Okay, so I'm not going to go any further there. I'm going to go, because we're going to run out of time. I'm going to get into there as a solution, which I don't do a lot. I'm in it, but I want to go a little further. Let's see. I want to go to the bottom of 22 now. So it says, we know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. How many of you found that you sort of stabilized when you just got abstinent and things kind of cleaned up because there wasn't as much wreckage resulting from your not going to work and not spending money quite as foolishly? And yeah, we're equally positive that once he takes any alcohol, whatever, into his system, something happens both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. Have you had that experience? Short break, long break, and then off and running, and it just won't end, even though my plan was for it to end. So it says the experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. So this is where experience is important. That's what makes me uniquely useful. I'm not drinking out of willfulness. I'm drinking to combat a craving beyond my mental control. Will is isn't even in the mix. Does it make sense? Right. So these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink. Right? So a lot of people talk about the insanity of addiction, alcoholism, behavioral disorders, and they then start talking about all the crazy things that happen to us once we do it. But that's not the insanity. That's just the crazy shit that happens when you drink when you're someone like me. Those are consequences. They're not effects. Does it make sense? Yeah. So thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in the mind rather than in his body. This is why it's not a disease that can be solved by mental control. Because control is that which I'm addicted to. Which is why the only substance in the known universe strong enough to combat a control addiction is faith. And that's why we have a faith-built solution, which works when nothing else does. Not a religious solution, one based on faith, on this growing relationship of a power found within me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Do you guys relate to that?
Yes.
How many of you just made up stuff or took whatever their reason was because why not? So it says, well, I think we do. I think we, as we grow, we realize I don't have a clue. But I like everyone to have that discovery that you're not alone. So it says sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility. My mom died and my dad died and right? I responded badly to that.
My ankle monitor came off.
Listen, there's been false worships many times. I mean, ankle monitors. Why didn't we explain to them that you've probably used on probation before? So being off probation's probably not going to stop you. Anyway, yeah, we digress. But none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic drinking bout creates. So no matter what my reason for doing it, there's no situation I cannot make worse by acting out. Does that make sense? So they sound like the philosophy of the man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the ache.
Right.
Any of you beat yourself on the head with a hammer so you can't feel the ache?
Sean did.
Says if you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. Be honest with yourself and with us. Which experience did you have? That's stupid. Did you say that to yourself? And yeah. And so this is a book to help you self-diagnose. So when someone's telling you that the behavior you're engaged in is harmful and you're hurting all these people and this is not a useful thing, and you're like, yeah. Besides, I choose to do this. Anyway, or we laugh it off and we tell a joke about it, right? Because we intend to do nothing about that new information. So once in a while, he may tell the truth. Now, you guys pay attention. How many of you tried telling the truth when someone demanded to know why you did it again? How many of them didn't believe you when you told them? Because they don't believe us. Because we tell them, I don't know. I have no earthly idea. Yes, I really meant it when I told you I'd never do it again. Yes, I really meant it when I knew it was going to cause great harm to our relationship. Yes, I knew all of that and I have no idea. But I did. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Okay, you're right. It was mom. Right? Am I the only one? So yeah, okay. So said once in a while he may tell the truth, and the truth, strange to say, he usually has no more idea why he took the first drink than you have. So it's always about the insanity of the first drink, and they're describing to you how the insanity manifests in you before that. So no amount of I don't pick up no matter what applies. It's the most ridiculous solution ever to someone who's really got the malady.
Right.
Because it's just not, I don't have that control.
Right.
So some drinkers have excuses with which they're satisfied part of the time. And if you have reasons already built up why it'll be okay to engage in your bad behavior again. Sometimes it's just if this, and this, then that, right? But in their hearts, they really do not know why they do it. Now, see what they're trying to do? They're trying to call your attention to what's going on within you. Here's how I think. Here's how I feel. They are not in alignment. There is a war between them. So once this malady has a real hold, they are a baffled lot. So what is the malady? The war between head and heart. Yes. How I think and how I feel. They're at war, and I can't calm the storm. And outside, I know where to go to access power to at least activate my don't give a shit. Yeah. Because I didn't expect to feel good in the later stages of my stuff. I expected to feel different, and that was enough. That make sense? So there's the obsession that somehow, someday they'll beat the game.
but they often suspect they're down for the count, talking about the war again. So how true is this is, few realize. In a vague way, their families and friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal. But everybody hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will rouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. The tragic truth is that if a man be a real alcoholic, which is why we diagnosed ourselves before, the happy day may not arrive. He has lost control. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. Any of you, in retrospect, see that time for you? You went from, I want to drink or I want to use, to I have to. I want to act out. I have to act out. Okay? Says this tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it's suspected. It's already happened to you before you come in contact with us. So the condition that you've got to be honest with yourself starts here. Do you share this experience with these authors? Yes? And is it in retrospect? Okay. So then they've got more italics for us. The fact is, interesting how they're so declarative in this text. It's almost as if they were talking about their experience, not medical theories. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Now, internalize what they're saying. Have you ever lost something? I didn't say misplaced something. I mean lost something. You dropped your cell phone in the ocean. You have lost that cell phone. Now, it's possible you could get another cell phone, but that one is lost. That's what they're saying for most of us with regard to choice. So those people who say things in our rooms like, I choose not to drink today, they're not like me. It's not a choice I have the power to make. Those people that say, oh, I know, I just quit going to my meetings and I chose to drink. Nope. And I always suggest, if you think you chose to drink, well, go ahead and get up on top of the roof and jump off. And about halfway down, say, I choose to hit the ground. And see if you feel comforted by that. Because the comfort came from the illusion of control, not from any real control. Does that make sense? It's just a way you keep self-condemning you. So I'm making fun of it because I don't want those of us who need what I'm trying to share with you not to get it because someone tells a story that doesn't sound like it's going to be as hard on me. Does that make sense? So it says our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. And if you don't think that's true, how many of you went to work and you did whatever, and I'm not going to, as long as it doesn't affect my work, I'm just going to use the way I want to because this is the way I am. I'm a badass mother. And then one day it starts to affect work. And then it affects how you pay your bills and how you interact with people. And so, it's easy to see where they say so-called willpower because we start ending up hospitalized for the very behavior that's supposed to be empowering us. Okay, so we are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago without defense against the first drink. That's all in italics. I would suggest all new people memorize that and understand what it means. There is a difference between memory and consciousness. My consciousness supersedes memory and emotion. It supersedes thought. I'm able to witness powerfully very sad events without breaking down emotionally because I witness from my consciousness, not my emotion. Does that make sense? Some of you have felt me.
Yes.
You didn't feel me, but you felt that consciousness. That's what I'm calling your attention. Okay, so the almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind and deter us. If these thoughts occur, they're hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we'll handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. So later in the 11th step promises, they'll tell you you'll recoil as from a hot flame. So the solution we're going to introduce you to in you and through you through this manner of living is going to give you normal reactions because you'll be operating from consciousness. You won't be mind and emotion driven. You'll be spirit driven. Does that make sense? Which is why we've got to tell the truth to people about what our solution entails, because our solution is the truth. Not my truth, not your truth, not everyone's plan for recovery. I hear this all the time, guys. Biggest disservice we do in the behavioral health community. Everyone's path to recovery should be honored. Okay, but they don't all have the same results, because if every path works, no path works. Right? We need evidence. We have evidence that one path thoroughly followed our path. This path does work in millions. So I did Joe's Anonymous far too long and survived it. I recommend against Joe's Anonymous, or Patrick's Anonymous, or Aaron's Anonymous, or whoever's Anonymous, Jim's Anonymous. Okay, so if you're seriously alcoholic, as we were, we believe there is no middle of the road solution. How come they would tell us the truth way back then and put it in a book, and we all wave this book and then tell everybody, look, wait, I got a whole book on middle of the road solutions. You're swimming in a swamp. I'm trying to, you know what I mean? It's going to get tough once you're in the middle of it to remind yourself you were there to drain it when all them alligators are nipping at you. You better know. You better be in the manner of living. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. Is that true?
Yes.
And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return from human aid, I don't know if that's true for you, but if you're in the sound of my voice, it's probably true. Because there's, 8 billion of us on this rock now? There's no chance meetings on this earth. You didn't get in a room with me hearing this message if it wasn't for you. We had but two alternatives. You know, an alternative is not a choice, right? An alternative is I can go on to the bitter end, crash, die, horrible death, or I can accept spiritual help. But it's not a choice, because if I don't do this, it's happening. A choice is I can take that, or I can take this, or I can take none at all. I can pick my path. See why I got so animated about paths? It doesn't say paths. Path. One path. 100 people. Several thousand at the time of the writing. One path. Yes? So, now I did it again. Okay. I get lost sometimes. We had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. The other was to accept spiritual help. So, consciousness from memory. This is not a remember your last drink program. This is improve your consciousness so I can talk to you about that dead man who's been recovered. And I can talk to you with passion, but not be overwhelmed by the passion. Does it make sense? So this we did because we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort. So all requirements in all 12-step actions suggested going forward from here are going to require you honestly want to, which means you understand what you're being asked to do, and you're willing to make the effort to do so. And if either of those two components aren't there, you're not ready. And so your obligation then would be to ask, because you can't grow in conscious relation without examining what the process is with your logical senses. That's why we want your mind right first. We also want you to be able to explain as clearly as I'm explaining to you what the process is, so that everyone has a fair shot to examine it with their logical senses and decide whether they want to move into consciously building a conscious relationship with the power within them. If it doesn't make, we used to do a meeting, we just talked about it today. We used to do a meeting at New Solution here in Phoenix. We called it, Does That Make Sense? Because if it doesn't make sense, don't do it until someone can make sense of it. And if they can't make sense of it, they don't understand it well enough. And I've followed a lot of blind guides enough in my life. Give me a sighted man. Yes? Okay, so I'm going to go from there. One more thing, because I'm going to run out of time. I want to go to chapter 3, more about alcoholism. And I want to look at another little thing just to keep you aware in your first step experience. Middle of that page, second paragraph, actually, of page 30 of your book. Most of you have been in an AA room, CA, whatever, and we've got the steps on the wall. I know some of the other fellowships have changed the way the wording of the steps, which is, in my opinion, unfortunate that they have. But I'm trying to get you to the reason anyone even has those steps is because of this experience. So we're trying to point you to the experience, not what else is happening. Usually they have the steps on the wall, yes?
Yeah.
What do they tell you the first step in recovery is?
Powerless over alcohol or life spent.
We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, and everyone points to that. But you have to get to page 30 to find out what the author's about to tell you. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. Some of you are feeling that. See, the steps on the wall are the instructions. And if you have a program off the wall, you have an off the wall program. But the instructions are in the book. And they describe the experience. And that's what I need to align to. Does it make sense? So then it says, this is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed. I cannot smash my own delusion. Patrick, thankfully, he showed us a demonstration of how most rooms react. They smash. But the nature of delusion is I lie to me and I don't know I'm lying to me. So it's not delusion if I can see it to smash it. But what does smash it is me accepting this power found within me and moving through this process and being changed from the inside. Does that make sense? And now I can sit before you, and although it seems like I'm being mean and I'm calling out people that say dumb things in meetings, remember it is a room full of drunks and addicts, and they are prone to lying to you. So read your own book. That's why I want you reading your book when you're sitting here with me, because if you don't read it while I read it, you're giving me power to control how you think, and I would not suggest that. Yes? I'm not going to go any further than that. Next week, we'll get into some power.
Roman 30, the one symptom we have in common.
Oh, well, Sean's been to a study or two. He wants us to talk about the one symptom. If you're alcoholic, what is the one symptom that we have in common?
We go into physical craving for alcohol. No mental control. We cannot stop once we start. That's the one symptom we all have in common.
Yeah, and it's a fair point Sean brings up, because a lot of treatment centers will tell you, have you ever had blackouts? Have you ever missed a dinner date? But the one symptom, the way you know, is, do I have an abnormal reaction when I ingest it? All right, that's it. We're going to get out of here.